What's up? How are you, sir?
I was kind of thrown off by the music. It seemed like it was like in a key or two lower and a little slower. Like the musician in me looked, listened, and was like, "Wait a minute, that's like two whole steps or three, almost three whole steps lower in key than the regular one," and it seemed a little bit slower. I don't know.
I don't know. It sounded fine to me, but whatever floated your boat, whatever floats your boat, sir. Happy hump day to you. Oh shoot, I keep forgetting to do that. Happy hump day to you. Hope you are having a great week. A happy Memorial Day to you. From Monday. I know you did not. Clearly you didn't die in service, but maybe you have family members who did, and that's what Memorial Day is all about. So
And happy Pride Month.
yes, today is the first day of Pride, and we will absolutely be doing something over here for Pride. And El Teddy always has an epic Pride video that he does. El Teddy, I was going to ask you, why don't you, this is just a suggestion, why don't you repost the last couple of ones you did so they're like on your community wall so people can easily find them before you put your third one, because the other ones you did in the past are really good and I know you don't repeat, so it'll be great for people to see the other ones that you've done. um and I believe you, in one of the ones you did, didn't you do the author of B-Boy Blues? Didn't you highlight
I
him?
did. I
So,
did.
with the movie coming out next week, well, it's already came out, but the movie streaming on BET,
Hmm.
people matching up the hashtags, honey, matching up the
Hmm.
hashtags.
I'll do that. Yeah.
It was
I
something
never
else I was going to ask you to repost. Um,
the letter people.
it might have been the letter people. It may have been the letter people, but I think it may have been the letter people. That would be a good one to repost too on your wall. But it was something else you did a video on, and I was like, oh man, I said I gotta get. It was something that was happening currently that you had talked about. Oh, Deshaun Watson, your Deshaun Watson video. He
Oh,
unfortunately he's being charged with another count, and they did a story on it on Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. So again, it's trending, and so
hmm.
you may want
And
to
the
just
thing about
repost
what's so
it.
funny is the the local DA and things say, "Oh, nothing to see here," and then here's another case,
People keep coming
and then,
forward.
and then
Listen,
these women are not credible.
y'all know what I always say on my channel: where there's smoke, where there is smoke, honey. So anyway, let's get into what we're talking about. But again, happy Pride, and like I said, we will definitely be doing some Pride things of the things over here. Just be on the lookout. Before we get into our stories, we have a hard timeline today because El Teddy has a meeting. But we did want to, we do want to be more consistent with our Wednesday commitments. Um, but a couple of quick announcements before we get into these stories. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has subscribed, who is subscribed. We gained about 40, 50 subscribers last month.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and we hit our 10,000 mark, 10,000 views. And we are only 108 subscribers away from getting a community wall, which will help us be able to push stuff out and let you guys know what's going on and when we're going to be going live. So, thank y'all so much. Um, if you
hey
could do
new people,
anything,
hey, I'm
if
nice over here.
you said what?
I'm nice over here.
You are nice over here. But we started doing a couple of things. We started doing the daily announcements. I started uploading.
I don't get to do daily announcements
Oh
yet.
my gosh. Listen,
No,
as soon as I get off of here, as soon as I get off of here. But I started uploading the shorts that I do over my YouTube, over my TikTok, my teacher shorts that we've gotten a lot of views off of those. Like people are liking my crazy teacher shorts over from the TikTok. So that's been great. Okay. So let's get into the things of the things. The first article we want to kind of jump into is sort of a follow up to, unfortunately, well, first of all, let me welcome everybody here. We have Tracy, Cool Gamer, um, Lovely 31, Abby as Abby, Vovo, what's up, Cookie? Um, Keywords over here, right? Okay. But we want to just our first article, and all of the articles I have put in the description box so you guys can go back and reference them, and I'll drop them in the chat as we discuss them. But we do sort of have a follow up to, unfortunately, the last time we went live, we were discussing another school shooting. And so this is an article that it just sort of talks about what's next. This is coming from K through 9, K through 12 deep dive. It's dated May 26th. So I'm going to read you guys a little bit of the article. The title of the article is Waiting for the Next Thing: What It's Like Teaching After a Mass Shooting. I can tell you front line. Matter of fact, let me give you a quick story today. Quick story what happened today before I get into the article. I was in my classroom today and they came over to the loudspeaker and they said, "Teachers, please close and lock your doors." And my students immediately thought we were going into shutdown, but they were doing a hall sweep. They were like, "We're getting ready to do a hall sweep," right? So of course, but immediately the anxiety, my kids heard, "Teachers, please close and lock your doors." And it was like, oh, and then they heard hall sweep and it was like, oh, okay. But I could literally hear the exhale when they say hall sweep instead of lockdown, whether it's a drill or whether it's real. Just that close and lock your doors, it just automatically sent some anxiety. So
I got a story too, but I'll save it to after the article because it'll resonate
okay,
maybe a little more after the article.
got you. Okay, so let me get into this a little bit. Wednesday morning, teachers, students nationwide filed into school hallways and classrooms less than 24 hours after news of another mass shooting. Students were required to take final exams and teachers were expected to grade papers and continue instruction. From the outside, maybe it looked like business as usual, but a familiar pit, and I'm going to say her name is Chanoa Bond Stomach, told her otherwise. "I've seen my colleagues cry today," Bond said Wednesday, as she's an English teacher, English and literature teacher in Fort Worth, Texas, nearly 350 miles from where the last massacre took place. Bond said she and her colleagues were experiencing emotions ranging from fear, hopelessness, stress, and nervousness. "We are all balls of stress and balls of nervous energy, waiting for the next thing to happen," she said. "All of our bodies are exhausted. We're not sleeping. Some of us are just struggling physically." Bond and thousands of teachers like her across the nation had to carry on, because if I don't, then everything falls apart. Nothing is new about the range of emotion, physical, and behavioral side effects reported by educators across the nation in the wake of the massacre. It is a ripple effect that many teachers have described experiencing after similar shootings, from Sandy Hook to Virginia Tech to Parkland to Santa Fe to Oxford. The fact that it's so many and that's not even a percentage of it is sad. But moving on. That's because those reactions are all symptoms of trauma response, according to Addison Duane, a former elementary school teacher with a PhD in educational psychology and now a professor at Wayne State University. Duane's research and expertise includes trauma and racism in schools. The spectrum of impacts resulting from firsthand, secondhand, and various trauma after school shootings can vary from emotional ones like feeling loss of control, increased anger, or increased aggression, to behavioral ones such as withdrawal. Physical symptoms may include headaches, stomach aches, and loss of sleep or appetite. I'm going to drop down a little bit. Our bodies are living that trauma over and over again. She said, that's Bond saying that. The trauma experienced after a school shooting can be layered on top of a pre-existing trauma resulting from systemic racism, especially for those who work in or are members of communities that have been historically marginalized, like Black, Hispanic, and low-income students. Robb Elementary School is a case in point. It's 90% Hispanic with the 87% economically disadvantaged, according to school district data. Layering of trauma is now an ambiguous part of the U.S. experience, Duane said. Against this backdrop, teachers are asked to keep teaching. Dr. El Teddy.
That last sentence resonates so much because that is the sentiment for everything. Anytime there's a problem, anytime there's a situation, anytime things are falling apart and the world is crashing down around us here in the world of education as teachers, we're just told, just keep on teaching. It'll be, and can I just put it this way? Schools are ghetto. Education in America is like the ghetto. And let me give you the perfect story and example as to why. I taught in what some people would call the ghetto. I taught in one of the most hood neighborhoods in Miami-Dade County and taught there for 6 long years. And we had a lockdown one time. There was a guy, two guys literally running through the school, shooting. One guy, one drug dealer, was going after another drug dealer who ran into the school and thought that that would find him safety. And, that did not, because the other guy ran behind him and, started shooting. We could hear it. We knew the school was on lockdown. Can I tell you how my students were not afraid at all? Because they were like, well, what we say we deal with gunshots and people shooting all the time, so we already know what to do. One of my students said, matter of fact, this may be your safest place because you may have a couple kids in here who got their own piece and who may be ready to defend you. So you ain't got nothing to worry about over here, Dr. L. And I looked and I said, you know what? I'm gonna just keep on keeping on. And I literally kept on keeping on. And the students, they just kept on as if it was a part of life, which was such a sad state of affairs for me. But that has become a part of life for educators now. Lockdowns and the threat of another school shooting, where it's such a part of life as an educator, where you just go on as if it's normal, as if this is the norm, and that's scary. That's very disheartening.
As someone who absolutely had to walk right back into school the next day. Hey Tabitha, hey, babe. I mean, I can only speak for my school district. A letter was sent out from we call him a CEO. We have a CEO, not a superintendent, which should tell you something already about how our school is run. The fact that it's a CEO, which means that they treat it like it's a business and not. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation we can have. Words mean things. But anyway, we got an email from our CEO, and that's it. There was no moment of silence. There was no let's take a pause. There was no teachers, here is a conversation you can have with your students today. There was not even a email to the staff saying, hey, we have some extra people in the building today, just in case you have some kids that are dealing with some anxiety. Hell, just in case you're dealing with some anxiety. Hey, Miss Proverbial One, how you doing, love? We missed you.
Hey, my love. I ain't seen you in a minute.
And Proverbial One, shout out. She's one of our educators that support the channel. She's been here. She's come up and spoken with us before. And so, again, I don't know if that says so much about the sad state of affairs that this is just so commonplace, or the fact that nobody really knows what to do. I mean, I had a conversation with my kids. I stopped what I was doing, checked in with them, asked them how they felt, you know what I'm saying? And one of my kids even said to me, I said, well, if you're feeling anxious as the day goes on, you can always go to the guidance office. You could come to me. I said, I'm not a professional, but I'm here. And they were like,
you know what? And I didn't mean to cut you off. The scariest part to me, which goes along with just what you're saying, is how ill-equipped the guidance counselors really are.
They really are. They
take maybe 1 or 2 courses during their master's program about psychology or psychological, I shouldn't reduce it to 1 or 2. They take a few, but it's nowhere near the scope of training and education that they should receive to truly call themselves counselors and deal with all of the things that children have to deal with. Hey, Ronnie, Magby, I hope I pronounced that right. But and then you're dealing with maybe on the middle school and elementary, middle school, and high school, you might have 1 school psychologist on campus. Some elementary schools have 0. But on the middle school or high school, more than likely you're gonna have one on campus. I know on the middle school level, sometimes that one person wasn't there every day of the week. They might have been there 3 days out of the week or something like that. And so
Um,
when you're dealing with hundreds of students who may be dealing with PTSD from hearing about shootings and children getting killed at school and afraid to go to school, you have parents that not aren't necessarily equipped to engage their child with how to grapple with that. Then you send them off to school where they also don't have people there equipped to deal with it. And so now it just never gets dealt with. And so they just have to try to compartmentalize that PTSD. And we know that children aren't good at compartmentalizing.
no, not at all. And again, like I said, and like you said, at the end, like I know I've worked in my teaching career, I've worked in DC, I've worked in Maryland, I've worked at a charter system, I've worked at the jail, right? Those are my, and none of those situations did any school I ever work in, including the jail, which you would think the jail would have this, did we have a full-time school psychologist, or psychiatrist? Not one. Not one. And so there was always that system of, one school psych would be responsible for maybe 10 schools and would have to rotate those schools. So God forbid there's a crisis on the day that the school psych isn't there. And let me tell y'all another little secret that a whole lot of y'all, and this is why I love us doing this, because I think a lot of people just don't know how ragtag a lot of our school systems are. Let me tell you another little tidbit that y'all may or may not know. Most schools don't have a full-time nurse.
Sure don't.
So again, God forbid there's a situation at the school. Most schools do not have a full-time nurse.
But what they do is they rely on people. Like I know in some of my districts that I've worked in, there are individuals who are noted on campus who have first responder certification and training, who have EMT certification and training, and different so that if something does happen, they have key individuals in place that they know they can call upon those people to do. And I know because I was always on that list. So it really is quite sad. Another thing is when they say, "Oh, we're bringing in grief counselors to help," what that means is that one school psychologist that's assigned to that building, they're going to make sure that that one person is there for the
Right.
next week or
And
two.
my
They
aunt,
ain't bringing in a team of nobodies. They ain't
well, I
bringing that
will
in
say
at all.
this. My aunt is my aunt, before she retired, her last job before she retired, that was what she did. She was part of that team of grief counselors. She was a school psychiatrist and school psychologist, excuse me. And the problem is they may be bringing a team in, but what they're doing basically is just pulling, like you just said, they're pulling all of the school psychologists for the whole system and just sending them to one school, which again means, God forbid, there's a crisis anywhere else. Like, for a perfect example is this. In my career, and I know you've had this happen to you as well, El Teddy. In my career, I've had incidents where students were killed, right? Either I had one student who died of sickle cell, but most of the cases they were killed. They act like that kid only knew people at that one school.
Right. Because they might
So
have brothers and
everybody goes
sisters
to the
at the
school,
elementary school, and
right?
friends at the elementary school level, at the high school level, at
Exactly.
neighboring feeder
So
patterns.
we only acknowledge the school where they were enrolled without understanding that there are going to be kids in crisis at other schools that same day. And because you've pulled everybody and sent them here, now other schools are struggling. So anyway, that again, you guys, this is why we do this. I need y'all to know. Proverbial one said, "You are so on point about the lack of knowledge or preparation of school guidance counselors." It's okay,
And,
Proverbial one. You drop in your comments whenever you can, babe, because we know where it's coming from.
and the thing
Um,
about it is, what's so sad is there's no instruction that can take place. None.
no.
We've all as teachers have experienced a student is in class They either is zoned out, got their head down, they sleeping, they ain't paying. You go over there, you try to do your normal. Hey, what you got going on? I need you to, snap up. And I always, my students know me. They be like, Dr. Lewis, can I go outside? Can we talk? Okay, let's go outside. We go outside, and now here's the whole, and you like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Not knowing that they're dealing with this person died, and they will tell me this person was close to a lot of us in the class, so that's why you see a lot of people, you know, not really into it today. And so now I can't go about business as usual in terms of instruction because I got a whole group of people here who need help, who need, counseling, who need services that I just frankly am not, totally equipped to give them. But the school system wants me to keep teaching like normal.
What's
180
up,
days.
y'all? How you
180
doing,
days.
boo? Yeah, and again, so been there, done that, and I know you had to, El Teddy. And again, there's times when you just have to use your own damn common sense and deal with the
Mhm.
repercussions as they come.
Yep.
But like I know, there are days where you're like, listen, I already know we're not gonna get anything. There's not gonna be any instruction,
Mhm.
and I can't even stand up here and even convince myself to do it. My heart ain't in it. So let's figure this out. All right. So where do you want to go next? You want to talk about school lunch? You want to talk about the teacher assignment about primates, or do you want to talk about the mandatory reporting laws changing down to the California? Where you want to go next?
It's just, we got to talk about the school lunch because that's a pressing issue. But we got so many things going on. We can
Well, let's
say
go.
I made for
Let's
last.
hop over to the school lunch because the last two stories I think you might have a sugar spike. So let's
Yeah,
go over to the school lunch. Uh, all right. This is coming from again. Oh, did I drop? I'll drop the two links in a second. This is coming from U.S. News and Reporting. This is it's going to be catastrophic. The day is May 26th. The It's going to be catastrophic. Schools brace for crisis over meal programs. So let's talk about it. Supply chain disruptions, inflation, and rising gas prices are producing unprecedented complications for school nutrition teams, and the federal government is about to make things worse. Well, don't they always? When Penny Parham, the food and nutrition officer for Miami-Dade Public Schools, began courting bids for its main food distribution service, the one that provides groceries on a weekly basis so that the fourth largest school district in the country can serve upward of 35 million meals a year, she didn't expect any problems. Despite the supply chain's woes wreaking havoc on school districts across the country, including Miami-Dade, a lot of companies participated in the pre-bid conference, she said. And besides, in more than 20 years as head of the district school nutrition program, she couldn't ever recall not receiving a bid. But that's exactly what happened. And while the school board took swift action to allow for direct negotiations, a move Parham credits for having a contract now nearly finalized, the occurrence underscores the precarious footing upon which school nutrition directors across the country find themselves. It's just been very disrupting and very, very out of the ordinary, she said. It's been a year unlike any. Across the country, school districts, large and small, are expecting crises of their own. In Fort Worth, a spreadsheet 400 lines long detailing food that's out of stock. In Lansing, Lansing, Michigan, a 4-hour phone call to place food orders that used to take just 20 minutes. In Cleveland, 67 unfilled positions in the school nutrition division. And in the thousands of suburban and rural districts that dot the country, shipments delivered with a fraction of what was expected, forcing nutrition directors to dip into emergency funds, drive to the nearest grocery store, and purchase items at consumer costs. Ongoing supply chain disruptions, inflation, and rising gas prices produced a maelstrom for school nutrition teams this year. Coming on the heels of a school defined by pandemic related disruptions that required them to be creative to ensure students were fed, especially in communities with overwhelming food insecurity. Threatening to make matters worse, nutrition waivers that have provided generous reimbursement rates and allowed flexibility from complying with meal patterns and nutrition standard requirements Waivers that they say have been crucial to allowing school meal programs to operate at all are set to expire at the end of June, supercharging an already unpredictable landscape. Now, as in-person learning stabilizes and Education Secretary Miguel Cardona talks about moving beyond COVID, along with the rest of society, school nutrition directors and advocates are are instead bracing for a new school year that many anticipate will be impossible to navigate without help from Congress. Hold on, let me. The article goes on. I think we get the gist of it. Is there any more you want me to read, or you get?
We get the gist of it. There's a lot of parts, moving parts to this. One of the parts that's going to get lost in this, that I'm going to talk about real briefly, and then we can talk about the other stuff, is she talked a little bit. And hey, everybody coming in the room, we see you, lovely 31 Blueprint, Quintessential, some other people, Born Earth, and some other people that came in. Um, she talked about bids, the fact that this was the first time in 20 years, and I know Penny Parham very well. I know her by name. Might still have a cell phone number in my own phone. But this is a problem because bidding is what keeps things equitable. And what she talked about is they because of they didn't get any bids, they allowed her to do uh, negotiating or in contracting. What happens is this: in order for any major contract or anything over $1,000 to happen in some of the large school districts, you have to take what's known as bids. You have to solicit companies that will come in and bid to provide services to that school. There's a provision in, I know, for Miami-Dade County Public Schools that says you cannot take bids without having at least one bid from a minority company, a minority owned company. If you do not have a minority owned company, all of your bids get rejected. So you have to do that. You have to have at least three of them. So what that means is, um, there might be some minority based companies that don't get the privilege of having the tens of millions of, no, I'm sorry, hundreds of millions of dollars, because I know that county spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year on food. So that's just a little piece of how, these things kind of spiral, and and touches things that you don't even think about when you think about education and things like that. Because what that means is she was able to go directly to whatever company she wanted and say, "Hey, I like this company. They might be, some of my friends. Let me get them this contract for several hundreds of millions of dollars, whether or not they're a minority or not." So that's just a little part of it. The other thing is, this is where the Obamas did not do us any favors, because if you remember, First Lady Michelle Obama, my fellow Capricorn, who we love to death, she was very instrumental in the major changes in food and nutrition federally for school districts across the country. Really, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And what happened was, some like right after, toward the tail end of Obama's term, they Congress passed the waivers, where districts had waivers and they didn't have to adhere to making sure that they followed the stringent and strict nutritional guidelines that was put in place at that time, which made food much more expensive for a school district. So they've been operating off of these waivers for years now, which has kept the cost, kind of low. But now that that's going away, they have to deal with the fact that the price of the standards for food and nutrition that they're going to meet is going to go up. In addition to the fact that the number of companies that can now facilitate what they need to do has gone down. So you have two problems that are coming, which means that you may need to be sending your child to school with some Lunchables or something like that.
But the problem is, I mean, so many, like you said, you might want to send your kids to school with Lunchables, but again, we already know that the teachers, the parents who can will, but who's gonna end up getting the short end of the stick? I mean, they're gonna have to extend these waivers. See, goes back into everybody was in such a rush to open everything back up, but were we really ready to open everything back up?
Because now we have nationwide shortages of food distribution just at the local grocery store. So you think that's not going to affect public education and private education? Because not only public schools need to be fed, private schools need to be fed as well. And then you get into major. One of the things that stuck out to me was them talking about people at public schools having to go to the local grocery store to go buy stuff to fund education. Really, be as well as I do, that don't never happen. And if that is happening, somebody gonna have to go down and see somebody in somebody's office, because you could the school board could face fines and all types of other repercussions, because they're not allowed to just say, oh, I'm gonna just go buy this stuff off the grocery store shelf. There's a vetting process. They have to go through all of the nutritional facts and all of those things that go along with having things in a public sphere to make sure that it aligns with nutritional needs of adolescents and growing children, and all of the things that go along with that. A mess. It's just a mess. And if these kids don't get no food, you can only imagine what they're gonna be like in the classroom. They might talk all that noise. I don't like school lunch. I don't like school lunch. Let you not have it. We didn't even touch the fact that breakfast is supposed to be free nationwide. So if they can't feed them for lunch, how are they going to provide them for the breakfast?
Cam said, I work for a large school wholesale food distributor. We're not predicting things getting any better this year with the supply chain. Well, there you go. Lovely 31 says, one high school near me in Colorado cannot serve students due to the shortage of lunches. Now, I don't know about the state of Colorado, but there's certain laws in place as it relates to school lunch and what the school is obligated to do. So I don't know what the law in Colorado says, but I do know that there are laws in place. So this may end up affecting kids being in school for a full day.
Especially if that child is on free or reduced lunch. If it's a Title I school and that child is on free, even, for example, like you've had those students who, for whatever reason, they ain't get their lunch application form in on time, and they say you can't have the school lunch. They at least have to provide. They'll say, "Go this peanut butter sandwich and some milk." We had, when students would get in trouble at our school, at some of the schools I was at, what the principal would do is she would say, "Oh, y'all want to act up? We're gonna give y'all the bare minimum." She would tell the cafeteria, "Go ahead and get them choke sandwiches." Okay. Get them the good peanut butter and say bread, no jelly, peanut butter and bread and milk. That's all y'all get, because that's all we require. But there is a minimum.
There are laws, because I know in DC, when I worked in DC, and I think it's the same thing in Maryland, that when kids went to school for half a day, you had to feed them before you dismissed them.
That's right.
And if they weren't like if it was bad weather or something and we had to dismiss early, if the kids hadn't eaten lunch, it counted against us as a full day. Basically, it counted as a full snow day. If the kids don't eat lunch, it counts against you as far as the kids were not in school for a full day. So if
that's why they'll even give them the bag lunches to take home.
Right, you can give them a bag lunch, but you gotta feed them. So again, I'm not sure what the law is in California, but it's late in the school year now, so it may or may not. But going into next school year, that's that's another aspect of this, El Teddy, that we haven't really talked about. Is there are laws in place that says that kids have to be fed in order for that school day to count.
Right, and in order for that school to maintain accreditation and so forth, those students have to have a certain number of full-time face-to-face hours with professionals. So if they're not getting lunch, even if a child goes on a field trip and they're not on campus all day long, the person responsible for that field trip has to take lunch from the school. Even if the kids never eat that lunch, they must take those lunches and make them available for students to have.
Tabitha, who works at a Institute of Higher Learning, said the food shortages are affecting higher institutions. The food choices are low, the servings are smaller, and the cost is going up. So again, it is affecting students on every level. How much of the school lunch is now anyway? I don't know because I don't know. I
I'm
couldn't even begin to
about it.
make.
You know, that's one thing teachers we do not care about, baby. When we drop them off for lunch, we do not care. Whatever they got going on in
And
their
I could
cafeteria,
listen. The only
we
time I
know
go in
how
my
to play.
the only time I go in my school cafeteria is when we have a meeting.
Oh,
I don't
shit.
go in there. I don't know. And listen, and my classroom is across the hall from the damn cafeteria, and I don't go in there for no
Don't
reason
go in
unless
there
that's when
for
we have our
nothing.
staff meetings. We either have our staff meetings there or in the auditorium. The only time I go in my cafeteria is when we are having a staff meeting. Okay, so I
Yeah,
couldn't begin
yeah.
to make up. I couldn't begin to make up.
I
that I'm
can't even say. I ain't gonna even try to lie to you because I don't know. I have no idea.
all right. So let's because like I said, y'all, we got a hard stop. So let's get into these the next story. We'll and again,
Let's
as
go to
always, we will keep
California.
you guys posted. If we get more information, we will definitely share with you. Like I said, we are 108, I think it was, people away from a community wall over here. So that'll definitely be another way that we can keep up with you guys and give you updates on the community wall.
Come
As soon as
on,
we
we
get
almost at our 1,000. We about to get our 1,000. Thou.
Listen, we need to listen. We really do need to get to our 1,000. We've been bull haggling for a long time. It's just YouTube is weird. Anyway, I don't even want to go down that road, child. I'll get to talking about algorithms and stuff. Anyway, um, let's get into some things. So we have the next two. One is on the. Let's talk about the primate one, and then we can end. You want to end on the
No, let's do the primate one last.
Okay, we can do the
I'm
primate
gonna
one.
spike out with that one. Yeah, let's just say that one for last so I can have a hard stop.
Okay, no problem. Not a problem. So let's get into this one right here. I'll put the link in the chat. California votes to end mandatory reporting on students who threaten schools. This is coming from the Daily Caller, the politics section. It is dated May 27th. The California Senate, the California State Senate voted Thursday to end a requirement that students who threaten violence against school officials be reported. Before the California law was passed, existing law stated that whenever a school official is attacked, assaulted, or physically threatened by any pupil, staff was required to promptly report the incident to specified law enforcement authorities. The new bill has repealed this requirement. California passed the law just 2 days after the latest school shooting. I'm not going to get into all of that, the latest school shooting. Um, the law was endorsed by the ACLU, California Action. The organization called it a win for racial equality. Once students make contact with law enforcement, they are less likely to graduate high school and more likely to wind up in jail or prison. These harms fall disproportionately on students from marginalized groups, Black, Indigenous, and Latinx students. The sponsor of the bill, California State Senator Stephen Bradford, told the Daily Caller, "Our existing system has led to alarming disparities in the type of students who are most likely to suffer these harms. Black students, Latinx students, students of color, and students with disabilities are disproportionately referred to law enforcement, cited, and arrested." SB 1273 will reduce law enforcement involvement in schools and give teachers and administrators who are often best suited to determine the appropriate response the flexibility and power they need to support students. Teachers and administrators will still be able to call law enforcement if they believe that is the right response to a particular incident, but they will not be required to do so. Okay, that's it, Elton.
It sounds bad on the surface, but there's a lot more going into this than what it sounds like. It sounds like, oh, they no longer have to report when students threaten violence against the schools. However, what they noticed was they were not reporting on the white students. that young white loner male who was prime suspect A for the next, candidate A for the next mass shooter was never getting reported. But little Johnny and Raheem over here, or Shaniqua over here, who, had a moment because she just got out of a, maybe she had a fight in a scuffle with another student. You know what I'm saying? Her emotions are up, da 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 da. So they yelling out anything. So a teacher try to break up the fight, and they say, let me go, I beat your ass." You know what I'm saying? Something like that immediately triggered. You need to go report her because she said that in a moment of, she may not have actually. You knew she ain't gonna go out and beat this teacher or whatever. She was just emotional, acting out because that fight, but that immediately had to be reported. Now she has to go to law enforcement. She is getting reported to with law enforcement. And so what they were saying is this was overwhelmingly a law that was affecting black students, Hispanic students, all types of other minority students, but never with the same fervor for white students. And we've seen that we can't say use superlatives and say always a certain type of person, but in a lot of cases, the types of people who do these types of mass shootings do fit a certain profile. They so quick to profile us black people for certain things, but they ain't willing to profile the white people who do a lot of these things. But that's a whole nother story. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm on my soapbox. Go ahead.
Also, what we have to understand too is it's not just because even if it was being reported equally, even if that was equitable, the police response is not always equitable. And we've seen that. I mean, what have we been talking about over the last 3 years with defunding the police? And we were asking for more police training as it relates to what about that student who has autism? What about that student who we know comes from a gang? We were just talking about comes from a gang environment, comes from a certain mentality. And their words, they don't always use their words the way they should use their words. I'm going to give y'all a perfect example. This happened today. I had a very interesting day today. This happened today. Student came in my room, and this is a kid who I didn't realize me and her had this type of relationship. I really didn't. But I'm glad that she felt comfortable coming to me. She was angry with another teacher. And this is a teacher who could be problematic. As much as I love teachers and I love my educators, we have some that are problematic. They'll say, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So this is a teacher who's problematic. And I believed everything this young lady said about that teacher. I believe the teacher did exactly what that young lady said. She was upset. She was angry. She cussed. Listen, she was cussing. She called that teacher out her name. She said, if the next time she say something to me, I'm calling my grandmother. And my grandmother said she bringing my cousins up here to whoop her ass. This is what she said to me. I let her get it all out her system because she was angry. And I let her say what she needed to say. And then I sat down with her and we talked. And we worked through it. And we're not going to bring the cousins up there to fight the teacher. But, and I can laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny in the moment, honestly. But under this law, I would have had to call the police on her. Now, the police don't understand that this teacher...
They don't know that child.
They don't know the child. They don't know the teacher. They don't know the situation. All they know is, now I've had to call the police and say, hey, I have a student who's threatened to have someone come up to the school and assault another teacher. The police show up, not guns ablazing, but the police show up ready to write reports and file charges. And they're going to go to her grandmother's house and they're going to file charges against her grandmother. They're going to find these cousins that she's talking about. Like, it's a whole trickle-down effect when in all reality, she just mad.
Mm-hmm. And we know these things is so many times we as educators have to be the mediator for a child, because oftentimes we know them better than even sometimes their parents, because a child sometimes goes and tells a story to a parent and the family way worse than what it was, when really what they just needed was a moment to do just like what Really B allowed her to do. Just get it out. Baby, you all right now? All right.
Now let's talk
Let's
about
get
it.
past this. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about
Right,
what you do next time and how you can get beyond this and how
right,
we can deal with these situations.
right,
Because it can become a situation,
right.
but when you have this mandatory reporting, police, like you said, they don't know no better, and they're not gonna try to have that
And they're not
conversation.
trained to know any better. They are trained. People have to
They,
understand what police are trained to do. Police are trained to arrest people. That is
mhm.
what they're trained to do. They are not a social worker. They are not coming up there to mediate nothing. They are trained to take out their handcuffs. Now, there were internal things that I did, as you know, with this student. Like, it didn't end with that conversation, but it was internal things that were dealt with that it was internal things. But again, under that law, I don't have that wiggle room. I don't have that discretion. And now what they're saying is we're going to put the discretion back on the level of the schools, because you can still call the police if there's a threat. You can still bring the police in, but it is just not mandatory. And this is coming from a teacher. And I've been threatened. Listen, y'all think a student ain't never threatened me or called me out my name before? Like, and that I have never called the police on a student. Never.
I've never
I've had to
called.
call Child Protective Services, but I've never called the police on the child. And I have been called all kinds of, y'all know, I'm sure y'all can imagine the names I've been called, you know. Um, and so it sounds bad on the surface, but once you read through it and you understand how this law has been used to hurt our kids, especially think about California. Do you think that the kids in South Central were treated the same way as the kids in Beverly Hills as it relates to this law? Do you think the kids in San Francisco were treated the same as the kids in Oakland as it relates to this law? Probably not.
And let's be clear, we've already seen that everybody ain't following the law anyway, because they talked about the disparities with which the statistics.
Oh, we lost El Teddy, y'all. He'll be back. He got kicked out. He'll be back. So yeah, so I see a lot of y'all were like, what? But now you guys understand what we're saying about the why there's that disparity there. And again, trust me, I'm the first person that wants to be protected. I'm the first person that wants to be protected while I'm at work. But I just think whenever you put this blanket law into place and you take the discretion out of the hands of the people who deal with these kids, and know the backstory. I mean, sometimes there's reasons why things happen. And I'm not, y'all know I'm the last person to defend bad behavior, because trust me, I don't do that. But sometimes there's a reason why things happen the way that they do. El Teddy, I think El Teddy must have got a phone call or something. He'll be back. Let me see. I'll read a couple of comments in the chat. Oh, did I put the article? Yeah, I did. I put the article. Okay. DC schools still like that. My nephew don't even eat the lunch, but it's provided. Exactly. Like I said, when I worked in DC, the kids went to lunch every day. And again, a snow day. I remember that being the case. Like for snow days, like if we wanted to dismiss school early because the weather was bad or they were predicting bad weather, we had, like, I remember I remember my principal even saying, all right, we got to change the lunch schedule so we can get everybody into the cafeteria so everybody can get a chance to eat lunch before we dismiss, because if we don't feed them, we're going to have to make this day up, So that is definitely going back to that food shortage. Here he comes. That's definitely going to be an effect next year. I don't know how they're going to work around it. I don't know how they're going to work around that for next year. You pixelated really bad, El Teddy. Can you hear me? All right, it's
Yeah,
clearing up. It's clearing up a little bit now. It's better. It's better. Okay, we're getting there. It's clearing up. I don't know what you got going on your side, but it's clearing up.
I don't know either.
Well, we're on our last story, so it's all good. Any final words you wanted to say about that, El Teddy, before we move on to the primate situation?
No.
Listen, I already know Tabitha. This gonna piss Tabitha off too. Tabitha, if you still in the bushes, honey, hold on, because this
Go
one gonna
ahead and
make
grab you a piece of candy, honey, because you gonna spike out, honey.
yeah. This gonna okay. All right, you guys. This article is coming from USA Today. The date is May 20th. Let's go. Teacher at Michigan school is on leave after assignment shows former President Obama with animals. Now, this article, I'm gonna give you a D for this title because this
Right.
title does not give us the full Monty of what this article was about. Okay, you're not giving us the full Monty. All right, you playing. You are playing. You buried the lead with this one, but that's okay. We're gonna read the article to y'all so y'all know why this is an issue. A teacher at a private school in Michigan has been placed on leave over an assignment showing former President Barack Obama with monkeys and asking students to identify a primate. The Roper School, which has campuses in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and Birmingham, Michigan, confirmed to multiple outlets that the teacher is employed at the Birmingham campus, located approximately 20 miles northwest of Detroit, at and the site of the school's middle school and upper school, according to its website. The assignment showed student images of several animals, including monkeys, and an image of Obama, according to multiple reports. It asked which of the following are primates. The school, in a statement to USA Today, said, on behalf of Roper School leadership, we want to acknowledge the disturbing racial offense contained in an assignment with an upper school last week. The choice to use this piece of curriculum was completely inconsistent with our school's philosophy and mission, and we sincerely apologize for its use and the harm it has caused. While the teacher has taken responsibility and admits the mistake of not properly vetting the resource, we know that that is not enough, and she has been placed on administrative leave until further notice. That's the end of that article. So I'm going to give you the floor, Doctor.
Why am I not surprised? I don't even have the words to say, how I'm surprised they actually put this teacher on leave. Let's be honest. This is a private school. And I would venture to tell you this is not the first incident of this or instance of this, and it will not be the last. I'm not surprised. Think about what's going on. Remember, we talked some weeks ago about the additional 150 private and charter schools that they were opening in, what was it, Tennessee or Kentucky, where they were going to be indoctrinating students about their white supremacy and everything. Remember that? Imagine what's going on in those schools that we're not hearing about. A mess.
Tabitha, I knew that the Daily Caller was a right wing. I didn't know it was a white supremacist website, but I knew it was very right wing. The article itself, I mean, I could probably find that on a different website, and that's fine. I can do that, because the article itself wasn't. I didn't feel like the article itself was skewed. But I can definitely find another website. That's no problem. For us to use in the future. My take on it, honestly, I just need us to fucking do better. Like, I don't understand how you look at something like that and you don't feel like there's a problem. Like, there's no alarm system went off and said, wait a minute, hold on, monkey, black man, probably not the best situation, probably not the best visual, probably not the best idea. Like, I remember me and you had this conversation a few episodes ago where I said, hey, there were things that I did when I first started teaching that I would never do now. It's just a different climate. It's just everything is different. There are just things I would never, ever do now. And probably even some things that I look back on and I cringe and go, ooh, that wasn't a good idea. But you do know better now. Like you, I don't. God. Tabitha said originally the teacher wasn't put on leave. It was the backlash that caused the school to put her on leave. Of course.
That's why I said I know without even knowing this school. I know this is not the first instance of it, and it won't be the last.
Child, any school that got an upper school, they call it an upper school instead of a high school. You already know. You already know what you're dealing with.
Already know.
I'm sorry. That's a stereotype. I should have said it, but y'all know what I'm saying, child. Zara asks us, really being El Teddy, is the main purpose of this channel to solely disseminate information, or are there other goals for the channel also? I can't speak for El Teddy, but I can speak for myself. I would love for us to get to a point. I mean, I definitely want us to get our subscribership up, and I would love for us to get to a point where we could maybe do live shows. But honestly, the format is pretty much the format that I like. I don't want to speak for El Teddy. What do you? I mean, what do you? How do you feel?
I'm just here so I don't get fined. No, no, but seriously though, we definitely are here to disseminate information. We definitely want to give our own commentary on situations and just also pull back the curtain on some things that the general public just does not know.
Yeah.
When you see a lot of these headlines and you see a lot of these stories, they oftentimes either get it wrong or they purposely leave
Only
out a
give you
lot
one
of
part of it.
information. And
Yeah.
so it's certainly to educate and empower parents, um, family members, students themselves, and all of the stakeholders with surrounding the field of education, specifically as regards to Black students and students within the LGBTQ plus spectrum.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's my goal. My goal is to disseminate information, because a lot of this stuff, not only do you guys not know, but you may not understand what the long term or the full impact of it is.
I
Okay, El Teddy has to go. We get ready to shut it down. He had, like I said, you guys, he had a hard timeline today, but we said we wanted to try to come on Wednesdays and be more consistent so that you guys know where to find us. So I'm going to close it down here. If you have any questions, you can always reach us at the Teacher Project 2.0, the Gmail, our Instagram, our email is teacherproject2.0 at gmail.com, and IG is the teacher underscore project underscore 2.0. And you can definitely find us there. You should call Future Lives Teacher Parent Meetings. That's an interesting title. I like that title. I might have to take it, Zara. Thank you. I like that title. Teacher Parent Meetings. I like it. I like it. Okay. But thank y'all for being here. I appreciate, we had 26 people in the chat. I appreciate you guys being here. Please hit that like button on your way out. Y'all know how this YouTube thing works. The more likes we get, the more visibility we have. If you do, if you can, I know Quintessential always shares us out, and I really appreciate that. And anybody who's already shared us or tells people about us or talks about us, thank y'all so much. Like I said, we on a mission. We are on a mission to get ourselves, get more visibility and be more consistent. So I will talk to y'all later. Mwah. Peace.